If this is what we're going to start getting into, that I think what American Single Malt can do, how the freaking you? I mean, this is amazing. I love
Beautiful.
What is up, everybody?
Hey guys, it's Scotch for Dummies.
4 guys on the Scotch journey to help you with your next Scotch purchase or maybe American Single Malt.
What? Bingo.
All right.
Thought we'd start out the year trying something new.
Something in your backyard, as you may have said earlier.
Well, it's not quite the backyard, but it's Pacific Northwest. It's still American.
Close enough.
And
Close.
We'll take it. We are going to try doing some more American Single Malts this year, and this is kind of the first one. This is our first review of an
first
American.
major leap, if you will.
Yeah, it really is. This is from Westland. This particular bottle, unfortunately, is gone, but guess what? Edition 7 is supposed to be released in February of 2023. This is Garryana 6th edition, which is part of their Outpost range. And this is quite the Frankenstein bottle, guys. Honestly, doing the research on this, Andrew was reading off the casking, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
Seems a little crazy.
It's quite a departure from the edition number 5 that was like 46% Garryana oak casks, and the rest were American white oak. Well, this one, they decided to go with Franken casking.
Is that a new word?
I think so. So they started it with second fill. Well, so it's broken into about 5 different casks. One is second fill, ex Pedros and Minas butts.
Okay.
That's like 65%.
Okay.
Now, 25% of that was the virgin Garryana oak cask.
Which
so
we're going to have to talk about that in a second.
And then they have 5% in ex Calvados, first fill ex Calvados, first fill American grape brandy. That's 2% of that, and 3% of Washington apple brandy.
So to me, this gets interesting. Those last 3 are a little interesting, and if it's good and they get it right, I have to tip the hat for them for what they're doing, because making a guess on that and getting it right is probably a shot in the dark. All right?
Well, what my guess is, after hearing the small percentage of those last couple, is probably they put the first 2 main components together, and then they needed to add a little bit of something. So they've got casks sitting around aging in other barrels.
Yep.
That they're like, we need to
so you're
cut
like, in
a little bit
salt,
of this.
more pepper.
Says the chef.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, you've got to adjust the flavors.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Right.
And especially when you've got a weird oak species that may be imparting some flavors that are a little stronger. It's virgin oak, so they're getting some heavier flavors out of that, I'm assuming. So what do we know about this oak species?
What's the story with this oak?
Oak, if we're pronouncing that right.
Yeah, Quercus Garryana is the species. Native to Pacific Northwest, but very small range, very hard to get, and very hard to work with. So there aren't very many people doing anything with Garryana oak at this point.
And it does provide a different flavor profile than your traditional white oak.
Yeah, so it's going to be more marshmallows and burnt sugars and things like that, which is, as I guess, opposed to like vanillins and things like that you may get more out of the typical white oak that you would use.
That'll be interesting, especially when you've got all the PX cask to deal with. You know how that shows up.
Could be super
glass.
sweet. I hope they did it right. I hope they got this together.
I think we're, with our commitment to start getting into some American single malts, I think it was a no-brainer to start off with something, a home run with Westland. Obviously, they are known for what they're doing. There's only really a handful of distilleries out there that are really committed to American single malts right now.
I agree.
Yep.
And no color added, and no chill filter.
50% ABV, and this particular bottle,
Nice color.
I think it retailed at 150-ish. Is that right? $150.
Okay.
And what was the age on it?
Like 43 months or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah, and there were like 5,900 of these bottles cast or put together.
So one of the things that I'll just put a disclaimer out there, we are obviously Scotch heads, but I will say from the world of American Single Malts, it grabbed our attention, and I can see why on the nose. This is great.
I'm definitely getting the maltiness in there. You can definitely tell they haven't overcovered the malt.
I also get marshmallow.
Ironically enough.
And there's like lighter dried fruits, not like deep
like
rich
apricot?
fruits. I guess. Yeah, not like plums or things like that. Like lighter.
Like a dried apricot, dried apple, almost.
Yeah,
there's definitely some apple.
Well, that may be that
grapes.
apple brandy. Yeah.
Oh well, yeah.
It's
that makes
definitely
sense,
got
right?
the Pedro note in it as well.
Guys want to taste? Let's go.
Ironically enough, those various casks on the nose really go together
They do go
pleasantly.
well. It's heavily oaked.
So right up front, it was a lot of clove.
Clove. Okay.
But then it kind of fades back and it's more like red hots and it got a nice caramel brown sugar note to it.
Keep going.
The clove was actually like kind of hit me in the face, so I'm anxious to try the second sip. But it's a longer finish, and now I'm getting some more of those dried fruits coming back in on the back palate.
It's kind of a thin finish, don't you think? I mean, it didn't really stay full. It hit really sweet marshmallow cream and then kind of tapered out into like it's a long, thin finish for me.
A burnt note on the finish. I did get the heavy clove up front, and I'm kind of hoping that that's just alcohol more than
I
anything.
bet it is.
What's the ABV on this?
50.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so I can go back to the nose
Yep.
after the first sip, and I got more antique on the nose, more musty.
I see. I'm getting sweet light.
I don't get the creaminess I did before now.
Little creamy oak on it. I mean, it's not like burnt oak. It's more of a vanilla oak or a.
It's
Wow.
it's a pretty deep, complex whiskey. I think it needs a lot of time to kind of open up, and I think some water is going to help it kind of tame down the alcohol a little bit and get into some of those lighter, fruitier notes.
Well, and that makes sense because the mash bill for this is also unique in that they've got typical pale malt, which provides most of your sugar, some Munich malt, extra special malt. Those are all providing most of the sugar content and a little bit of flavor. But then they have some pale chocolate malt and some brown malt. And that makes sense for that chocolate coming through, the coffee notes, things like that you might get in
Perfect.
there. That
Yeah,
typically
that makes
comes through.
sense. Totally.
Because I was getting a burnt coffee
almost a
note
little
on the
coffee,
late
yeah,
finish.
in the late finish. All right, so nose is back to what it was originally for me. Like it's a lot creamier now with the water added.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of the richness and the sherry note with water.
You know, speaking of sherry for the PX, I'm not getting a whole lot of sherry in this.
No.
Which is kind of surprising
brown
considering it's like well over half,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
Yeah.
So,
But it is second fill.
well,
You go
that's
good
true,
now.
I guess. So, it's more of a seasoned and not necessarily an overpowering flavor.
I will say the word of the day is spice. It's got quite a bit of spice going on.
I get a bit more of a green note, like a green. I don't want to say straw, but like a green grass note on the nose now that I put a little
Mimic
water.
almost,
Yeah.
The distillate.
What notes are we supposed to be getting from this Gary oak? Marshmallows and brown sugar? Was that the
Yeah.
predominant
Burnt brown
flavors?
sugar is what
Burnt
they
sugar.
said.
Yeah.
That's
I
good.
mean,
No,
I definitely I got the brown sugar on the neat, not as much with the water. It's kind of faded off. I was kind of excited to
I
get
like
more
the
marshmallow,
maltiness of this. I think
to
this
be
has
honestly.
this is what I like about, single malt Scotch. It just has that rich malty flavor. I think they've done a great job of blending all those Franken-casts together, and it's not disjointed. I don't
No.
feel like the flavor's changing and kind of
Fighting itself.
I think it's well done. I will say though that the flavor doesn't particularly change over time. Like sometimes with a well-aged Scotch, you get kind of a rolling flavor profile. I don't get as much of that
Yeah.
with this.
well, you ready to score?
So I will say first and foremost, if you just poured me this glass, I would think single malt, right? Like it's an American single malt and it shows through as that kind of whiskey. So if you're looking for the sweetness of a bourbon, this is definitely not it. This drinks much more like a Scotch. I will say I had to get a sip of water because that cinnamon clove note just wouldn't leave me alone. And I kind of had to wash it away a little bit and come back to it. I've put water on this twice now. And now the brown sugar and the marshmallow are starting to come through a little bit that were supposed to be in this Gary oak. But it's got a lot of different things going on. And so I've enjoyed just kind of playing around with this one. It's got a lot of depth and complexity, and I feel like we're not able to give it the time it really needs to kind of show through all of the different flavors that it has to offer. I think if you came back to this bottle in a month, it's going to drink completely differently than what
there's
we
no
just
doubt
had
about
tonight.
that. There's no doubt about that.
I think that some of these other flavors need time and a little bit of oxygen, and some of that alcohol needs to get off of there to kind of show through. That being said, just based off of what we had tonight, good drinking, neat, It was a little hot with the clove initially, but by the second sip, that kind of calmed down a little bit. I actually liked it with the second time I put water on it. The first time, it didn't quite. I guess I didn't hit the mark with it or whatever. But the second time, it's really hitting the mark. $150, but it's a specialty bottling. You know, I guess that kind of is what it is. But it's a unique oak type, so I'm glad we tried it. I'm going to throw a 3 out there.
All right. Do you need more time?
Before I get into what I want to say about it, you know, after the first watering, I was kind of on the fence, and you're like, I watered again. I'm like, maybe that's it. I thought I watered it, but I'm going to throw some more on there and see. And I think you're right. I think I put a little bit more, and I got to that sweet spot. And that's kind of what's fun about, you know, having high ABV whiskey. You can do that. You keep going until you find where you like it. But to get into this whiskey, first of all, I'm very excited, and I feel like the future's bright with us reviewing some American Single Malts. I think they did a really good job considering the cask types. I mean, you could really screw that recipe up. The price I'm not really thrilled with, but let's get back to, you know, the nose neat. I thought was wonderful. I was really it really made me feel like I had a glass of scotch in my hand. I could relate to those notes, right? Yes, the first palate was pretty clovey up front, high ABV. That's kind of expected, but I was really enjoying the finishing notes. Those burnt coffees and chocolate notes. I was definitely seeing hints of that Pedro Ximénez coming out, and I was enjoying it. Put some water on it. And this is where I kind of got to give it a little chink in its armor. The nose on the water, it turned a little green for me. And I'm not saying offensively green. I've smelled on plenty of scotches, but it's not what I expected to happen with a 50% ABV, 65% sherry, Pedro Ximénez sherry. But the palate was still good, especially after that second watering. I came back around and gave me the notes I was getting neat, but more approachability, because it was watered down a little bit. I think a 3 is a very solid score for it, and it's where it belongs. I honestly, for a hot second, had wavered coming in at a 3.5, and I'm like, wow, my first American Single Malt. I'm just going to start coming out of the gate and hitting triples.
I mean, you do have a title.
I do, right, exactly. But that's a Scotch whore. But anyway, it's very close. It's a very good, and it makes me want to get into the distillery's core range and see what they're doing at their heart.
Agreed.
Really cool. I'm glad we got into a new oak. That's kind of different, but at the end of the day, I'm going to stick with a solid 3, and I think we're going to have fun with this. I'm very excited to see what happens, like you said, in a month.
Can we give quarters?
I thought about it.
Owning King of the Hill.
Because this is why I would like to go there, because this is a solid 3. It's almost a 3.5. The only dinger is it's a little pricey for what I'm used to at a 41-month whiskey. So, and ultimately that shouldn't matter. Let's talk about the flavor here and the profile. I like the flavor. I like the ability to have the malt in a long finish. I'm getting that malty, chocolate malty finish that I love. I love whiskeys that do that. The ability to balance all those components into this whiskey that creates a unified flavor is excellent and difficult. So I appreciate that. I don't have a whole lot ding it on. I'm going to go with a 3.5 on this because I think it's just it's a tasty whiskey. You can do it neat. It's great with water. It has full flavor. You get maltiness. You get the barrel flavor. You get all flavor from all the different barrel components. What is there to wrong? What's wrong with it? I don't know what's wrong. What I'd put down on it.
Well, just give me a little audible here to support your 3.5. Gave it a little bit more time. And came back to the nose, and the greenness is gone, and I'm getting freaking nothing but marshmallow.
3.5, baby.
So,
this is good whiskey.
I don't think you're wrong, Andrew.
Like I said, I think that you come back in a month, and this is a whole different bottle. But I'm going to rate it off of what I'm tasting tonight.
Yep.
So,
well, I mean, I can't argue with what all three of you guys said, honestly. Absolutely agree 100%. I think I'll just say some different things. Taste, everything else, yes, spot on, all you guys. I think for me, what I am excited about is that I feel giddy again, like, oh, what is this stuff? Like when we first started Scotch, I didn't know. And I feel like that's the realm I'm in right now. It's new flavors, it's new smells that I think I know what they are, But then I'm like, well, that's different. I've not had that. And I feel like I'm getting that right now.
Okay.
And I'll tell you this, to all 3 of your points, if this is what we're going to start getting into, that I think what American Single Malt can do, how the freaking Hallelujah. I mean, this is amazing. I love
Beautiful
this.
work.
I
I
love
hope
it.
they're not all $150.
They're not.
Yeah. But I mean,
We've seen them all over the place.
the interesting nose for me was this kind of, I said it earlier, kind of like an antique wood thing. And I wonder if that's that special oak they're using. I don't know yet, but I'm kind of excited to try some more things and see if I can pull that out again. I love everything about this. There's enough complexity going on where I think it deserves time. It held water fine. It can play all day long. The chocolate notes at the end are great. So I gotta agree with Andrew here. I think this is a 3.5. This is
Excellent.
There's nothing wrong with this. And if you poured this next to one of my favorite scotches, I'd be like, they're both delicious.
They're
Like,
both
there's
delicious.
none of them. Like, this is great.
Yeah,
This is
agree.
what I was hoping we would get into.
Yep.
And it delivered.
I'd be honest with you, if it wasn't $150, I could see this on my daily drinker. I mean, it's really, really enjoyable. But,
Yeah.
I think at that price point and that ABV, it's not, your daily.
It's hard to
something
buy.
No,
Yeah,
but
a
it's a
little bit more
special bottle that I would love to
That's
share
true.
with people.
That's
Yeah,
very true.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
This is one that might start converting those bourbon heads.
Well, that's a different world.
No, this
I mean,
is not
it's a different
American.
world.
That's
Yeah,
why
but
they're going
but
to
it's
do it.
not-
It's,
This is not bourbon.
This
no,
is
it's
not
not. Amen to
You're
that.
gonna freak people out, man.
Thank-
All right, so
right.
we got 2 3s and 2 3.5s.
I guess I can do the math on that.
3.25. Great job, Westland.
Wow,
Coming in
Westland.
strong.
We are
Excited
excited
for what
to
we
get
have in
into
store.
more Westland and more American single malts. How about the
Gentlemen,
reviews?
cheers.
Cheers.
Here we go.